Good evening. This is Joseph Long. I'm going to be discussing my paper dealing with the Chinese cyber threat for comparative foreign policy at Bellevue University. Chinese cyber threat. Chinese information warfare strategy emphasizes the computer network attack aspect of information warfare. Intelligence collection and military operations is their primary goal. They want to create an edge for their military. Chinese government cyber organizations have successfully accessed and exploited unclassified but controlled U.S. networks and those of our allies in other countries all around the world. Chinese state control of cyberspace industry is an enabler of this. The Chinese telecommunication industries are largely controlled by the communist regime. Huawei and ZTE have ties to the People's Liberation Army. Many people believe that these two companies allow unchecked backdoor access into data and proprietary information belonging to over 140 nations. In May 2013, United States President Barack Obama accused China of cyber attacks. Based on the Pentagon's annual report to Congress, the main goal of the Chinese was to steal industrial technology, gain insight into U.S. foreign policy, and build a picture of U.S. network defense, logistics, and related military capabilities that could be exploited during a crisis. China, of course, denied these accusations. And just a month later, Edward Snowden, the NSA contractor and whistleblower, revealed details about how the U.S. has hacked computers in both Hong Kong and mainland China. This damaged U.S. credibility, and the Chinese used the information from Snowden to enhance or alter its own computer network security. U.S. cyber policy goes back to the 1990s. Actually, it goes back to the 1980s. But in 1996, the President's Commission on Critical Infrastructure Protection, PCCIP, was commissioned to study the nation's vulnerabilities. They found many vulnerabilities. In response, the National Infrastructure Protection Center under the FBI was created, and that served the purpose for some time, but in 2001, the terrorist attacks necessitated the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, under which, in 2003, the National Cybersecurity Division was created. This served the purpose also of creating the U.S. Computer Emergency Readiness Team, the U.S. CERT, which was established at this time. But more was needed. And so in 2008, the Comprehensive National Security Initiative was created. It managed the Federal Enterprise Network as a single network enterprise with trusted internet connections, which creates a common security solution across all government agencies. It defined and developed enduring deterrence strategies, and this is used to define exactly what constitutes a computer network attack and determine the appropriate response to that attack. It is a multi-pronged approach also for global supply chain risk management. Also, in 2013, Executive Order 13636, Improving Critical Infrastructure Cybersecurity, was signed. This requires the Department of Homeland Security to identify critical infrastructure where a cybersecurity incident could reasonably result in catastrophic regional or national effects on public health or safety, economic security, or national security. Also, working its way through Congress is the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act. There are currently 4 versions of this before the 113th Congress, and it's unlikely that the 113th Congress will actually pass this legislation. It's very controversial. Finally, U.S. Cyber Command was created in 2009 to plan, coordinate, integrate, and synchronize and conduct activities to direct the operations and defense of specified Department of Defense information networks. In other words, it's mainly to protect the Department of Defense networks. It also conducts full-spectrum military cyberspace operations. It is the offensive arm of the U.S. cyber policy. It's authorized to conduct cyber attacks. International cyber policy took a page from the United States. The United Kingdom was one of the first to establish a cyber command, the Office of Cybersecurity and Information Assurance. The idea is to make the United Kingdom more resilient to cyber attacks. It's also to conduct cyber attacks of their own. Many other nations followed suit, including the European Union. However, Israel is one of the most effective, or has one of the most effective cyber policies. It has a large pool of cyber professionals and is actively recruiting the next generation. It's very good at that. It also effectively collaborates between defense, academia, and industry, something the United States incorporated from Israel into its own cybersecurity policies. France, however, was one of the first nations, or Western nations, to declare sovereign borders for the Internet content. Internet service providers and companies are compelled to respect French laws. It does have the effect of limiting intellectual freedom in cyberspace. And the French president himself has asked the G8 to help find the best balance between cyberspace regulation and innovation. The United States turned to academia early on to solve many of its problems with cybersecurity and cyberspace. It's estimated that the U.S. will need up to 700,000 new cybersecurity professionals by 2015. The U.S. Cyber Challenge was founded to reduce the shortage in the cyber workforce. Also, there's collaborative research programs run by many contractors and the U.S. government itself. Carnegie Mellon University, Massachusetts Institute for Technology, and Purdue University were among the first universities asked to join this and work on cybersecurity solutions for the future. They added recently the University of Southern California. Many academics, however, are opposed to the passage of the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act because the bill gives broad immunity from liability to the private sector if they share data with the government, including the NSA. It also allows data originally collected through cybersecurity programs to be used to prosecute unrelated crimes. Finally, mitigating the cyber threat. The insider threat is still the most pervasive. Human error, sheer laziness, and insider sabotage or espionage are the biggest risks. Risk levels should be assigned to all positions and individuals applying for those positions of greater risk or that require a great deal of trust should be thoroughly investigated. Supervisors should be trained to recognize and respond to employees displaying inappropriate or concerning behavior in order to prevent or mitigate these threats. The first line of defense against the insider threat, of course, is the individual users. And we have met the enemy, and he is us. There we go. Mitigating the cyber threat also includes securing the cyber chain, or cyber supply chain, computer supply chain. Contractors must seek parts from the original manufacturer or trusted agents, and doing business with questionable suppliers must be avoided at all costs. It includes Huawei and ZTE and others, including Kaspersky Labs, which is a Russian company. Need to thoroughly vet contractors and computer equipment to ensure that the supply is not corrupted. Sends my briefing.